You remember what we discussed the previous week? You'll say, Okay, so you have paper and pencil now? So first of all, write down the 4 universal principles of spirituality. 1. Number 1, mercy. Number 1 is mercy. 4 universal principles of spirituality. Number 1, mercy, M-E-R-C-Y. Number 2, cleanliness. Number 3, truthfulness. And number 4, austerity. Okay, so number 1, mercifulness, or mercy, is destroyed by meat eating and intoxication. Meat eating and intoxication destroys mercy. Number 2, illicit activities outside of marriage destroy cleanliness. Number 2, right? Illicit activities outside of marriage destroy cleanliness. Number 3, gambling and mundane speculation. Gambling and mundane speculation destroy truthfulness. What's number 3, Krishna? Okay, how come you're not writing it down? Huh? You have it? Okay. And number 4, false pride from collecting more than one actually needs. False pride from collecting more than what you need. Or meat eating, committing unnecessary violence. Meat eating, committing unnecessary violence, makes one, destroys austerity, the ability to perform austerity. And I'm going to read something to you. This is a letter we got from a convict, someone who's in jail, right? So he writes, I am an inmate or a prisoner here in Eastern Washington State. I was from Seattle. I'm sending you a copy of my crime paperwork so you can see. I'm in prison because I put a thief to sleep, much like veterinarians put pets and dogs to sleep. Okay, that's what he says he did, right? And here, what? 1 second, you're going to see. He sends the official paper of his conviction, right? It says, I plead guilty to the crime of murder in the 2nd degree while armed with a firearm. So, his so-called putting someone to sleep is actually murder, right? So he writes now, but at least he's being honest, right? Right up front, he's being honest why he's in jail. Then he's going to be in jail till 2032. How many more years is that? Huh? How many? 14, yeah. He's going to be in jail for another 14 years. He went to jail in 1999. So he'll be in jail 14 and 11 is 20. Yeah, 35, right? Oh, 14, yes. Yeah, 33. So, how many? 33. 14 and 11.
32 and one add one more.
Yeah. Okay. So, hey, that's not bad. They didn't put him to death.
In India it's 14 years.
For second-degree murder? Wow. It's almost worth it to kill somebody you don't like.
Here the laws I don't like at all.
Here? Why? You mean killing people for murder?
Killing for people for murder and killing. One lady fired a shot at her husband.
Yeah.
And it went away. She fired on the top. So they to scare her husband, and they had some quarrel or whatever. They put that lady into a jail for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous. And here on the other hand, the government is selling all nonsense, doing all nonsense stuff for the public, and they are not held responsible for anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, anyway, I'm just letting you know. Well, he's asking that we become a pen pal, and so he can send letters, and he says how he was going to religious classes from Buddhists in his jail, and then he found out that they eat meat, so he doesn't like them. And he doesn't like cats and dogs because they also eat meat. It's one less than first-degree murder. First-degree murder is like the worst. Second-degree murder, it means that maybe he didn't want to kill the person, but it just happened like that. Whereas first-degree murder, they specifically wanted to kill somebody. Anyway, there's different, let's say, levels of murder. So second-degree murder, they didn't convict him to go to the death chamber. They just put him in jail for a lot of years, 30. So it's 30. So it's 31 years. 32 years he's in jail. 33 years he's in jail. 33 years. Okay, so he says he doesn't take drugs. He's a vegan, and he just likes to write, have someone to write to. Anyway, you see how people make mistakes. Now, why would he have killed someone? And by the way, he doesn't even say he killed someone. He says he put them to sleep, which is another sign of his nonsense. Yeah.
Sometimes put them out of their misery or something. I've heard this term before, that means kind of killing in a way.
No, that's called mercy killing. That's he actually murdered someone. He killed someone who didn't want to be killed. Let's put it like that. Okay, so now who can repeat to me the 4 universal principles of spirituality and relate them to the 4 regulative principles? Okay, we'll go one by one. So you're first. What's number?
Take
What?
They are mercy, cleanliness, truthfulness, and austerity. And then they relate to mercy relates to
Now just do the first one, mercy. Go ahead.
Okay, mercy it relates to no meat eating because it destroys the sense of like mercy because you're killing the animal just for the sense of your like taste.
Okay, but is meat eating and? Okay, who can say? There's two things that destroy mercy. Yes, Arush.
Intoxication.
Right.
Intoxication.
Okay, very good. Next, who's next there? Augustia. Okay, Krishna, 2.
Cleanliness. That's destroyed by illicit activities outside of marriage.
Very good. And Augustia?
So truthfulness is destroyed by gambling.
And? Gambling,
Speculation.
What?
Speculation.
Yes. Very good. And Arush, number 4. Number 4?
Austerity.
Yeah, and that's destroyed by?
It is destroyed by
Huh? Do you have it in your notes? Did you write it down? No? False pride.
false pride.
False pride that develops from collecting more than you need. And also meat eating, because you're engaging in unnecessary violence. You don't have to eat meat. There's so many vegetables and grains and fruits in America. Okay. So, universal principles of spirituality. Universal principles of spirituality. So if you understand these 4 principles of spirituality, then you can understand if a religion is 10% true, or 20% true, or 50% true, or 70 or 80% true, right? Because it depends on how strictly they follow mercy, cleanliness, truthfulness, and austerity. Like, let's say they're moral persons. They follow, the different rules of society, and they're always trying to be good to their neighbor, this thing, that. But they eat meat. So they're missing one of the 4 principles. Right? To eat meat, you have to support killing. You mean killing human beings or killing animals?
Not for meat eating, but like people who hunt. Yeah, humans, yes. Humans.
Killing humans. Well, I mean, that's part of, in other words, that's showing no mercy. Yeah. Okay, so why are we going over this? Because in order to write this letter to President Trump, we want to show how the 4 principles of spirituality are destroyed by certain types of behavior, such as meat eating, gambling, illicit activities, and speculation. Meat eating, gambling, and speculation, false pride, and so forth. They destroy the principles of religion. So therefore, how can you have peace if people are not following the fundamental principles of spirituality: mercy, cleanliness, truthfulness, and austerity? Therefore, there's going to be fighting, there's going to be violence, there's going to be arguments. Okay? Now, the next question. If you were Trump, what would you do to create peace? Well, you would have to do something to maintain and preserve and get the people to follow the 4 universal principles of spirituality, regardless of what their religion is. You see? This is not a sectarian thing. This doesn't say only Christians can do this, Muslims can't. No, everybody can do it, regardless of what their religion is. Okay. So, the way to create peace is by following these 4 principles. And the way to follow them is to understand what breaks them or what destroys them. So you avoid those behaviors. So can you be a Muslim and a vegetarian? What do you think? Yeah, there are Muslim vegetarians, like Hazrat Ali, the son-in-law of Muhammad. He was vegetarian. Right? So you're not violating any rules in Islam if you don't eat meat. Can you be a vegetarian and a Christian? Yeah. Can you be a vegetarian and a Buddhist? Yeah. Can you be a vegetarian and a Sikh? Yeah. So you're not violating your religion by being a vegetarian. Okay. Secondly, can you be a good Muslim if you're married to one woman and always faithful to her? Huh? Yes. Can you be a, let's say, a Muslim and don't gamble and don't speculate philosophically? Yes. And can you be a Muslim by not having false pride? Yes. In fact, you'll be a good Muslim, right? So you see, this is a non-sectarian thing. This had nothing to do with this particular religion, like Hinduism or something. This is for everyone. So if people follow these rules or these principles, then there will be peace in this world. Why? Well, what is the cause of violence? Well, here we have an example of a man who committed murder, and now he's in jail, right? Why did he so-called put to sleep? You see how nonsense people are, you know. He doesn't say, I murdered someone. I put them to sleep. Why did he do it? Let me see what he says here. He describes it a little bit. Yeah. He wants someone to write to him on a regular basis so he can write his speculation back to you. Let's see here. What? I don't think so. I'm going to send this to the ISKCON Prison Ministry. Yes. What? It's ISKCON Prison Ministry are devotees who, carry on correspondence with people and try and preach to them and make them devotees in prison. Let's see. Okay, so he's saying there was a thief, and he murdered this thief. He says, first of all, he says, I'm very abstinent, meaning no intoxication, no illicit activities, and he's been a vegan, vegetarian since 2000. I was adopted by an Irish-American white family. I am an olive-skinned Puerto Rican. I don't know Spanish. The Seattle thief I put to sleep was Latin American, just like me. He was from Mexico. Yet both of us were Spanish Americans. It was not a racial hate crime. I'm not racist. Well, Trump is a Nutty, honky, Nazi, pig. Ha. I cut contact with my adoptive family. They were going to get a pet bulldog. Yet, instead, they adopted me. When I get out of prison in 2032, I got nowhere to go. Anyway, you can see he's just writing nonsense, right? But he's saying that he put this Mexican guy to sleep. I mean, in other words, he murdered him. So this is called using language in such a way as to lessen the impact of what you do. Like, for example, this is what politicians do. If there is a country that engages in genocide, you know what genocide is? Genocide means you murder a large number of people, like 500,000 people, or 50,000 people, or 20,000 people. It's called genocide. Gen means people, side means kill. So you kill a large number of people. But when such people are questioned, they say, well, we didn't commit any genocide. We just did a transfer of population. Now, does that sound like genocide, transfer of population? Huh? That means you put people that live here in another place over here. So does that sound like genocide, transfer of population? No, it sounds like, it doesn't sound like a bad thing. The only trouble is, during the transfer of population, everyone died. So you see how you can use language to lessen the impact of an act. So this guy, he murders someone, shoots them with a gun, and he says he put them to sleep. So it lessens the impact of the state of the act by using language. So this happens all the time. It's a technique of demons. They know how to use language to lessen the impact of of the horrible act that they commit. So a country commits suicide, and their politicians say, "Oh, a country commits genocide," and they say, "Oh no, we didn't commit genocide. We just had a transfer of population." But during the transfer of population, everyone died, right? So they try and use language to mask or cover the severity of what they did. No. The British started this. Yeah, honey bucket is another thing. Yeah, you know what a honey bucket is? What's a honey bucket? It's a toilet. Yeah. Well, they do this in India also. Oftentimes, a family that has a child that's born blind, they give him the name Padma Lochan. What's Padma Lochan mean? Lotus flower. Lotus eyed. They call the son Padma Lochan, or he's blind, right? So India does it too, Prabhu. Well, the gurus of this are the British. They're the number one.
Every product they sell here in America, they twist it. Like, for example, anything that is organic food, or this one, like whole food, all those things, what they use, a fresh new thing, something like that.
Yeah. Amazon Fresh. Well, you need to rely on Vedic knowledge. As soon as you deviate a little bit from Vedic knowledge, you're in an open field of snakes, rattlesnakes, and you're going to get bitten and poisoned by that very clever language and all these things. Just like, transfer of population. You could never figure out that what they mean is genocide. It sounds so innocuous, so harmless. Transfer of population. Okay, so now we're studying this in order to be able to write our letter to President Trump. Right? If you were President Trump, how would you create peace in the world? Well, there's a saying, as the tide rises, all the boats rise with it. What does that mean? Yes, Prabhu. Mike. Go ahead.
So it means that the leader first does it, then the other people follow him?
In a general sense, yeah, exactly. So you know what the tide is?
Yeah.
T-I-D. It's not a detergent, right? What is the tide?
The tide is where like the water comes up.
Yes, exactly right. So when the water, let's say when the ocean water goes up at nighttime, what happens to the boats?
The boat.
They all go up, right? And when the tide goes down, what happens? They all go down, yes. So if we do something that raises the consciousness of all the people in the world, then that could create peace. And why is it that people are fighting? Because consciousness is very low. Just like this man. This man committed murder, right? And no doubt about it. He calls it putting someone to sleep. Just like a veterinarian sometimes puts a dog or a cat to sleep. Right? So, can a person like this create peace? No. They don't even admit that they did something wrong. So how can they create peace? They don't have control of their senses. He became angry at someone and killed them. Right? So in order to create peace, you have to have control of your senses and your mind. And you have to not be engaged all the time in sense gratification, but you have to be using the senses in Krishna's service. That way they don't... The senses are like snakes. If you mishandle the snake, it'll bite you and kill you. In the same way, the senses that are not controlled can kill you. Just like, for example, there's a verse in the 2nd chapter that says, even a man of discrimination and good intelligence can lose control of their senses because the senses are so strong. Yatato yapi konteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramatini haranti prasabam manak. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. So let's look at this verse, 2nd chapter, 60th verse. Do you have your Bhagavad Gitas? Krishna 2. You know where to get the Bhagavad Gitas. No, you're going in the wrong direction. You're going in the wrong direction. You have to come this way. What? You could say, oh, he doesn't have a brain. No, wait a minute. Look inside the head. You know. You got it? Open up the 2nd chapter, 60th verse. Yatato hyapi konteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramatini haranti prasabam manak. the senses are so strong and impetuous, Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. So what does discrimination mean?
Like exclude someone.
Okay, that is a meaning of that word, but it's not the sense in which the word is used in the sentence. It also means something else. Sometimes words have different meanings. So what is a man of discrimination? Is that a person who's prejudiced, doesn't like brown people or black people? Huh?
No.
What does it mean?
It means somebody who can distinguish between good, bad.
Yes. So a man of discrimination means he has the ability to distinguish between good, bad, and so forth, right? This is right, this is wrong. Okay. Now, that's as a noun. The word discrimination could either mean they discriminate against someone, or it can mean they're able to discriminate, meaning understanding what's right and wrong, what's good and bad.
Called segregation or something?
Segregation is different. That means you separate white people from black people. That's the way that word is used. You segregate. Like, for example, you segregate those who have leprosy from those who don't have leprosy. Leprosy is a very terrible disease, and it's very contagious. So they segregate, or they impound, or what's the other word? I forget. Anyway, they keep a certain group of people separate. Right? That's segregate. Like it comes from the word separate. Quarantine. That's it. Quarantine. Okay. So let's read the purport. Who's going to read the purport? Arush, go ahead. He raised his hand first. You got to be real quick when you raise your hand. There's a saying in the United States Marines. There are two types of Marines: the quick and the dead. Go ahead.
There are many learned sages, philosophers, and
Transcendentalists. 260.
Who
Second
try
chapter.
to conquer the senses, but in
spite
of their endeavors. Even the greatest of them sometimes fall victim to material senses enjoyment due to the agitated mind.
What
Even
does that mean? Agitated mind. Yeah, and not control. Yes. Huh? It can be angry also. Out of control. Disturbed. Go ahead.
even
Vishvamrita.
Vishvamrita, a great sage and a perfect yogi, was misled by Menaka into sex enjoyment. Although the yogi was endeavoring for sense control with
Severe.
severe types of
Penance.
penance and yoga practice, and of course there are so many similar
Instances, meaning cases.
in the history of the world. Therefore, it is very difficult to control the mind and senses without being fully Krishna conscious. Without engaging the mind in Krishna, one cannot cease such material engagements.
Okay, stop right there. So, ultimately, the solution to creating peace in this world is to become Krishna conscious. But if we say that to President Trump, he might say, oh, that's religious. Government can't be involved in anything religious. It has to be secular. What does secular mean? S-E-C-U-L-E-R, yes. Yes. Secular means no religion. The government has to be completely separate from any religion. There's a saying that, what's this saying in English? That, well, secular, oh yes, separation of church and state. What does that mean?
Separation from Christ and government.
Okay, well, India is a secular state. America, although it writes on every dollar, "In God we trust," also has a secular government, so-called. Okay. Now we see that this principle of separation of church and state, what has it produced in America and in India? A whole class of atheists. Atheism is on the rise all over in India and in America. You know, and even the people who are so-called followers of religion, they don't actually follow it seriously. And it's because of this so-called secular. Now, there can be misapplication of it also. Like you have places like Iran and Saudi Arabia that are religious states. And Israel also is supposed to be a religious state. Israel is supposed to be for the Jews, right? But yet, are they actually following religious principles? They're following the formulas. In other words, there's a difference between following the letter of the law but not the spirit of the law. Remember we discussed that before? Yeah. So sometimes what they do in Saudi Arabia, they have to, they're not allowed to drink alcohol. So they leave Saudi Arabia and they go to Beirut in Lebanon and they drink alcohol.
यशोमती नंदन ब्रजबर नागर गोकुल रंजन काना यशोमती नंदन ब्रजबर नागर गोकुल रंजन काना गोपी परनदन मदन मनोहर गोपी परनदन मदन मनोहर कालिय दमन विदाना अमल हरिना ममिय विलासा अमल हरिना ममिय विलासा विपिन पुरंदर नवीन नगर वर बंसी बदन सुवासा प्रजन पालन सुरकुल नासन Brajajana Palana Surakula Nasana Nanda Godana Rakovala Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Sundara Nanda Gopala Yamuna Tatachara Gopi Basanahara Yamuna Tatachara Gopi Basanahara Rasarasika Kripamoya Shri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natabara Shri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natabara Bhakti Vinoda Shaya Bhakti Vinoda Shaya Yashomati Nandana Brajabara Nagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Gopi Paranadhana Madana Manohara Kaliya Damana Vidana Jaya Radha Nila Madhavrada Nila Madhavrade Jaya Radha Nila Madhavrada Nila Madhavrade Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
No practical example.
Vaishnava Acharya, Yamuna Acharya, wrote something very interesting. If you look in the 7th chapter, 24th verse in the purport, seventh chapter, 24th verse. You have it? Seventh chapter. Oh, we're still reading the purport, right? Yeah, okay, but anyway, just take a quick look at this 724, and then we'll come back to 2, what was it? 260, yeah. You got it? So, if you look, there's a Sanskrit verse, Tvam Shilo Rupa Charitai Parama Prakritistai, right? And it says, my dear Lord, devotees like Vyasadeva and Narada know you to be the personality of Godhead. By understanding different Vedic literatures, one can come to know your characteristics, your form and your activities, and one can thus understand that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance, the demons, the non-devotees, cannot understand you. They are unable to understand you. However expert such non-devotees may be in discussing Vedanta and the Upanishads and other Vedic literatures, it is not possible for them to understand the personality of Godhead. This is from the book he wrote, the Shrotra Ratna, in verse 12. So, even though someone may be an expert in Sanskrit and is reading and teaching from the Vedas, Vedanta and Upanishads and other literatures, as long as they are influenced by the modes of passion and ignorance, they will not be able to understand Krishna. So, let's say someone is chanting Hare Krishna, coming to the temple, but they like to play video games. Will they understand Krishna? No. What are the video games are in the mode of what? Goodness, passion, or? Okay, so anything that takes your mind away from Krishna is ignorance. It's Maya. It's illusory. So is a video game real or illusory? Therefore, it's ignorance. Does it take your mind away from Krishna?
Yes.
Always, right? Therefore, if you become addicted, like many people are, to playing video games, you'll never be able to understand Krishna. There's one guy, I think in Hong Kong or somewhere, he played video games for 3 or 4 days straight, no eating, no sleeping. And what happened to him? He died. That's called mode of ignorance. You see? Yeah. So he's in Japan, or where is?
There's this YouTuber guy, his name is Ninja. He earns $720,000 a month, and he plays 6 hours straight. Oh, it's like crazy.
Yeah, but why does he? How does he earn the money for doing what?
He just earns it for YouTube, and then
So what does he sell on YouTube?
he doesn't sell his YouTube gives him money because he gets lots of views. He's like really
Oh, okay.
and he doesn't pay attention to anything else. And he can't think of anything else.
Okay. So is he a hero? No, he's
He can't think of anything else in the whole day except food.
okay.
He only
In other words, he can't think of Krishna.
Yeah, he gets up from his chair only if he's hungry. That's it. Walking break, drinking break.
Well, no, he could just get a tube inserted into his blood vein, you know, and that way he doesn't have to get up from his chair. They can just shoot the glucose into his tube, like in a hospital, you know, someone is in the ER, intensive care. That way he doesn't have to get up, he doesn't have to pass stool either. They can have a bedpan. You know what a bedpan is? It's for people who can't go to the toilet. They just poop right in the bed. Yeah. That way he could play all day long and all night long. Okay, anyway, anything that takes your mind away from Krishna is? Yeah, Maya, illusion, which is ignorance. Okay, so here a great Vaishnava Acharya, one of the greatest, is saying that it's impossible for people in the modes of passion and ignorance, and he names them, the demons and non-devotees, they cannot understand Krishna. Even if they're expert in Sanskrit and they read regularly the Vedas, they still will not understand. Now, does that make sense? If you're studying the Vedas all the time, and he's saying you can't understand, so why is it that you can't understand? No, he doesn't pay. I mean, he doesn't say they play video games. He says they, however expert such non-devotees may be in discussing Vedanta and the Upanishads and other Vedic literatures, it's not possible for them to understand the personality of Godhead. Why is that? But it says they're studying. Exactly right. You can't understand Krishna unless you actually engage in Krishna's service. Bhaktya Tvananyaya Sakya Ham. No, Bhaktya. Tvananyaya Sakya Ham Evam Vidurirjana. No. Yeah, Ham Evam Vidur. Gyatam Drashtam Tat Vena Pravestam Tat. So in other words, 1154 says that for one who is engaged always in my devotional service, they can see me as I am, standing before you, Arjuna. You know, and Bhaktya mam abhijananti yavanyas chasmi tatvato tatomam tatvato gyatva vishtita danantaram. 18th chapter, 56th verse says that, I'm sorry, not 56, 54th verse, 55th verse says, one can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. So, only by devotional service. Right? So now let's go back to 2nd chapter, 60th verse. And Arush, let's let someone else read. Who else wants to read? Yes, Agastya. Do you know where he stopped? He'll show you. By the way, remember when we were talking about, you know, genocide and transfer of population, right? Transfer of population is called a euphemism. E-U-P-H-E.
A practical example.
P-H-E-I-S-M. Euphemism. A euphemism means you sugarcoat a dead ant. If you put sugar around a dead, let's say you cover it with something sweet, and you offer it to someone, they eat it and say, "Oh, that tastes good," and then you say, "You just ate an ant," but they didn't notice it because it was sugar coated. So a euphemism is like that. You sugarcoat something. Like instead of saying genocide, you say transfer of population. So transfer of population sounds good, right? Okay, go ahead. It's called a euphemism. These are the tricks of the demons. They use euphemisms for horrible acts, and people can't figure out that it's actually horrible. Go ahead. I thought Augustia was going to read. He doesn't want to read. Go ahead.
A practical example is given by Sri Yamunacharya, a great saint and devotee who says,
Okay, now you see, we already read another quote by Yamunacharya, right? In 7th chapter, 24th verse. Basically, what he's saying is that Krishna consciousness is so nice that material enjoyment, like playing video games for 6 hours and having $720,000 a month, is actually boring and distasteful. So if you practice real Krishna consciousness, and real Krishna consciousness is service, doing creative things and expertly for Krishna, it's much more enjoyable than any material type of enjoyment. It is as if a hungry man has satisfied his hunger by a sufficient quantity of nutritious food or eatables. Maharaj Ambarish also conquered a great yogi, Durvasa Muni, simply because his mind was engaged in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so there's a practical example. Maharaj Ambarish overcame a terrible situation because his mind was always engaged in Krishna consciousness, and he was always engaged in service of Krishna. Okay. So material enjoyment becomes distasteful for a devotee engaged in the nectarian pastimes of Krishna. Do you think that's possible? That material enjoyment becomes distasteful? I mean, do you have any friends, or do you know, we said last week there's a difference between a friend and an acquaintance, right? So we can't use the word loosely anymore. You defined the difference. So do you have any acquaintances of people who are only interested in sense gratification? Acquaintance? It's someone you know, but you don't really consider them a friend. Because we defined what a friend is last week. It's a very special person. You can trust them completely. You can confide in them. They never break your trust. You can always count on them. And they're Krishna conscious. They're always inspiring you to be Krishna conscious. Okay, go ahead. You don't know it? You don't have any acquaintances? You only have friends? Oh, so they're devotee kids? Oh, so which class you talking about? Oh, in school, okay. But you're in the gifted program, so they don't pay attention. So do they still get good grades? Huh? Okay. They want to become a ninja.
Yeah, they want to try to make me play
Okay. Well, you see how powerful Maya is. It can take your mind completely away, not only from Krishna, but from, even doing good in school. You just get absorbed completely. That's how powerful. Now, I know people who make those games, right? And the more horrible the game, the more successful it is. Right? The more violent, the more, compelling, let's say. Okay, so now let's read the next verse. 261. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matpara vasahi yasyanendriyani Tasya prajna pratistita. Now this is the opposite of the previous verse. Who's going to read it? You want to read? Go ahead. Microphone.
Is that 2.6?
No, we passed it. 261. Go ahead. Both.
One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. Purport: that the highest conception of yoga perfection is Krishna consciousness is clearly explained in this verse. And unless one is Krishna conscious, it is not at all possible to control the senses. As cited above, the great sage Durvasa Muni picked a quarrel with Maharaja Ambarisa, and Durvasa Muni unnecessarily became angry out of pride, and therefore could not check
his senses. So you see, what happened? No. So what did we say happens? How can you maintain austerity? Look in your notes. What did we say destroys austerity? And what?
Acquiring more than what one needs.
Yes. That develops false pride. And also meat eating. Because meat eating is committing unnecessary violence, right? So all these things destroy the ability to perform austerity. And here we have the example of a more or less perfect yogi. Notice it doesn't say he's a devotee. It just says he's a perfect, he's a yogi, very advanced yogi. He was not able to control his anger because he became very proud. He thought he was superior to Maharaj Ambarish because Maharaj Ambarish was not a yogi. He was a devotee, but he was like a king. And he thought he was superior to Maharaj Ambarish. Therefore, he became very angry very quickly. And what happened? He tried to kill him. You see the danger of anger? He completely forgot who he was, what his duty in life is. And he tried to kill Ambarish Maharaj, who didn't do anything to him. So, this false pride due to collecting more than we need, due to meat eating and committing unnecessary violence, and due to having a feeling of superiority over others, it can completely destroy the possibility of austerity and self-control. Okay, go ahead.
On the other hand, the king, although not as powerful a yogi as the sage, but a devotee of the Lord, silently tolerated all the sage's injustices and thereby emerged victorious. The king was able to control his senses because of the following qualifications as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
So a symptom of a real devotee is that they can tolerate all types of injustices. What does that mean? Tolerate all types of injustice. Yes.
Maybe tolerate all types of trouble they have. Maybe they don't have enough food. Maybe they have a small house.
Well, no. Yes, true, but what is an injustice? What's the difference between justice and injustice? Yes, Augustine. Wait a minute, let's give him the microphone. Okay, that's all right, that's all right. Yes, so injustice is something wrong that's been done to you, right? And justice is you did something right, and it was recognized, and someone else did something wrong, and they were punished for it. That's justice. Right? But someone did an injustice to you, something wrong, and they seem to get away with it, but you learn to tolerate it because you are a devotee. See? Like, for example, sometimes someone will come up to you and say, "Oh, Augustia, I want to apologize to you." You say, "What for?" "So I insulted you once." You say, "I don't remember that." So, "Well, I did it in my mind." You say, "Oh, that's why I don't remember." So why are you apologizing? Because I don't want to keep it in my mind. I want to tell you that I did this, and I'm sorry I did it, and I want to ask for your forgiveness. So they committed an injustice. You don't even know about it. And they're asking for you to pardon them, to forgive them. You see. Now, on the other hand, let's say someone actually insulted you really bad. Would you get angry? Yeah. That means you're not a real devotee. How do we know? Well, from the example of Maharaj Ambarish, it says, on the other hand, the king, although not as powerful a yogi as the sage, but a devotee of the Lord, silently tolerated all the sage's injustices and thereby emerged victorious. The king was able to control the senses because of the following qualifications, as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. Now let's read what those qualifications are by which he was able to tolerate so many injustices. Go ahead.
King Ambarisa fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, engaged his words in describing the abode of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord, his eyes seeing the form of the Lord, his body touching the body of the devotee, his nostrils in the smelling of the fragrance of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaves offered to him, his legs in traveling to the holy place where his temple is situated, his head in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. And all these qualifications made him fit to become a Matpara devotee of the Lord. The word Matpara
Mat is a way of pronouncing it in English, but it's actually meant to be a Sanskrit word, so you pronounce it Matpara.
Is described in the life of Maharaja Ambarisha. Srila Baladeva Vidyabhusana, a great scholar and acharya in the line of Matpara, remarks, Mad Bhakti
Prabhavena Sarvendriya Vijaya Purvika Swatmadristi Sulabheti Bhavaha.
The senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. Also, the example of fire is sometimes given as a blazing fire burns everything within a room. Lord Vishnu, situated in the heart of the yogi, burns up all kinds of impurities. The Yoga Sutra also prescribes meditation on Vishnu and not meditation on the void.
Speak into the microphone.
The so-called yogis who meditate on something other than the Vishnu form simply waste their time in a vain search after some
Phantasmagoria, meaning something that doesn't exist.
We have to be Krishna conscious, devoted to the personality of Godhead. This is the aim of the real yoga.
Very good. Very good. So here, you have a list of things that King Ambarish did. Does this sound familiar? Where do you do these things? Huh? Yeah, when you come to the temple, you bow down, you walk to the temple, you hear pastimes to the Lord, you engage your words in describing the Lord and his abode, you fix your mind on the lotus feet of the Lord, you use your nostrils for smelling the fragrance of flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, you taste tulsi leaves offered to the Lord, and so forth. All these things you do in the temple. Do you play bingo in the temple? Do you play computer games in the temple? Okay. So, therefore, what? You play computer games at home. Okay, so you see how the temple is really necessary because it's a place where you focus the mind on Krishna. You might not do it so emphatically at home, but in the temple it's easy to do it because everyone else is doing it. Yes. What did you want to say? Prabhu? Yes. Hearing and chanting, remembering Krishna. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. Okay. So, here, verse 60 explains how dangerous the senses are when they're out of control. Krishna describes the senses as impetuous. What does impetuous mean? Huh? Anybody? Impetuous? Yes? No, not really. Impetuous means you're making whimsical decisions. Yeah, whatever enters in the mind and whatever attracts your senses. Basically, that's what it means. Whatever attracts your senses, you go for that. It's not something that's carefully thought about. It's just on the spur of the moment because you're attracted to something. So you act impetuously. Okay. Like the other day, somebody brought a Kroger's yogurt to the temple. Kroger. Kroger is a big grocery chain. They're all over the country. They're probably the biggest grocery chain in the United States. So they make their brand of yogurt, right? So one person is bringing Kroger's yogurt every week and donating it to the temple. And it ends up in our refrigerator. And then sometimes people eat it. The other day, I was looking at the ingredients, and it has gelatin in it. What's gelatin? Yeah, it's basically an extract from the flesh of the cow. So here a person is donating it to the temple, bringing it, and our people are taking it and putting it in the refrigerator. In other words, nobody read the label, because they thought all yogurts are the same. It's not true. There are certain yogurts where they put meat products in it, like Kroger's. Yes.
In my school, one of the kids, I still didn't eat gelatin, but prepared. He says that they banned that, and now they make artificial gelatin. Is that true?
Well, no. What does gelatin? Wait a minute. What does gelatin do? It jellifies the yogurt, so it looks like it's firm. It's not all watery, right? But yeah, there are other things you can use, but they're more expensive than gelatin. Gelatin is very cheap because it's a byproduct of the slaughterhouse. You see. So, is it good to read the labels of things? Yeah, you can't trust anything in America. You might get a candy, but the red coloring that they put in it, they make it from dead beetles. Huh? Which one is it?
There's like blue lake and there's yellow something. It's like artificial flavoring.
Right.
And they make it from like they make like the red one with the bug.
Yeah, they make it from like gasoline and also from
Okay. So now today we're going to get to what I wanted to really talk about, and that is the modes of material nature, especially the mode of passion and ignorance. So there are two types of swabhava, the nature of a person. Like some people are real jerks. That's their nature. And other people are really fine people. They're always kind and self-controlled, speak nicely, dress nicely, talk nicely, and so forth. So why is it that there are different types of people? Well, there's two natures. One is called sat swabhava, and the other is called asat swabhava. Swabhava means the nature of a person, how they're naturally behaving. And swabhava, whether it's the higher one, sat, or lower one, asat, is developed by association with the modes of material nature. So those persons who associate with the modes of passion and ignorance, they develop the lower swabhava, asat swabhava. And so now we're going to discuss what that is. If you look at chapter 14, verse number 12, it says, Lobha pavritir aramba karmanam asama spriha rajas yetani jayante Rivide Bharatar Sabha. O chief of the Bharatas, this is 14th chapter, 12th verse. O chief of the Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering develop. So these are the symptoms of someone who is in the mode of passion. They have uncontrollable desires and hankering. 14th chapter, 12th verse. So, then I write, the mode of passion is characterized by an unending and insatiable cascade of material desires for success in business and ever-increasing riches, sensuality, and other forms of hedonistic self-indulgence, fame, mundane knowledge, health and youthful appearance, and power for dominance in every field of action. All the above are often accompanied by a strong attachment to mundane family life, the strong desire to have an extended family dynasty with innumerable assets, such as expensive properties and possessions. If such passionate material desires are frustrated, one becomes angry, resentful, and bedeviled by greed. That's the mode of passion. So, we cannot really understand Krishna if we're very passionate about making a lot of money and enjoying a lot of sense gratification, because it requires an intense endeavor and it only increases our material desires. And then the mode of ignorance is defined as, and let's look at this verse, 14th chapter. Prakaso. 1 second, I'm looking for the verse. Hmm. 14th chapter. And 14th chapter, verse number 13. Fourteenth chapter, verse number 13. Let's read that, Krishna. Wait a minute. Read the verse.
The verse? Like the Sanskrit?
Yeah, no, the English.
Where there is an increase of more than the mode of ignorance, O son of Kuru, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested.
Darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested. They become apparent. And so, those influences, this is something I wrote, those influenced by the mode of ignorance lack the intelligence to make right decisions. They act under the spell of illusion and misconception, by which they work in ways that violate the principles of spirituality, mercy, cleanliness, truthfulness, and austerity. Bewildered by ignorance, they accept bogus religions as the truth and reject actual religions as false. A fallen person, they accept a fallen person as a great soul and ignore a genuine saint. They pass most of their time in sleep, laziness, illusory pursuits, and distress with little or no happiness, and remain blind to self-realization. Such ignorant persons are materialistic, deceptive, expert at insulting others, and maintain a negative, resentful attitude, habituated to fault finding. Their knowledge is limited to the body, concerned only with eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, without any faith in the Holy Scriptures and saintly authorities. The great Vaishnava. Okay, so this is the description of mode of ignorance. You see how devastating the mode of ignorance is. It's really like, as they say in English, it's the pits. It's the bottom of the bottom. So now we can understand more clearly why people in the mode of passion and ignorance can't understand Krishna. Because the mode of passion is so busy making more money and becoming famous and engaging in all kinds of sense gratification. They don't have time. And the mode of ignorance, there's so much addicted to sleep, laziness, and dreaming, and fantasies in the mind, and not being able to figure out what's real, what's not real, what's good, what's bad. And they're very disturbed all the time. Therefore, they can't figure out what's right to do, right? Because of all those bad qualities. So there's no choice but to raise people up to at least a mode of goodness, where they can begin to understand what's right and wrong. Okay. Jai Shri Radha Nilamadva Ki Jai. So now, Shrestha wrote a first draft of a letter to President Trump. So let's hear what she wrote.
Also, Mr. Trump, you have demonstrated how to fight against all odds by becoming the president of this great nation when no one expected you to do so.
Don't read so fast, and hold the
Okay.
microphone closer to your vocal cords. Go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Trump, you have demonstrated how to fight against all odds by becoming the president of this great nation when no one expected you to do so. Also, the nation sees the great effects of your economic policies and how they have improved the economy. It is sure that you are trying to find ways to leave your mark as the USA's greatest president. As we see everywhere, there's bitter fighting among countries, Republicans and Democrats, even families and family members. To create a perfect, peaceful nation that works together for prosperity, it is not just economic development, but we must elevate the human consciousness, which will last for a very long time and has been demonstrated by the greatest leaders of our history.
Great point.
There
Very
is-
good point.
There is a key principle that guides my suggestion. Whatever human consciousness we want to elevate the society to, the leaders must follow. Only when the leaders follow the principles by word and deed, then the rest of the subjects imbibe those qualities and start following.
Very good.
Laws alone don't change human consciousness, and so as a leader you must demonstrate these qualities so that other citizens compel to follow you.
Excellent.
It is a well-known fact that leaders of a country must lead with the right principles so that the subjects of the country follow and imbibe them. Here is an example of the three modes. Let's say the room which you are in is on fire. If you were in the mode of goodness, you would make sure that everyone in the room is safe before you get yourself to safety. If you were in the mode of passion, you would make sure that your family was out safe, and then you would go to safety. If you were in the mode of ignorance, you would get yourself out of the room, not even caring to help others. We must understand the root cause that makes people fight and quarrel. Every human being is influenced by the three modes of material nature in this world: goodness, passion, and ignorance, irrespective of whether they come from a color, creed, race, or religion. The modes of passion and ignorance force people to act out of lust, greed, and anger, which are the three main gateways to hell. When people act out of the modes of passion and ignorance, their only intent is to be selfish and acquire things for their sense gratification. In these two modes, people are constantly fighting and quarreling with each other. Take the gun violence issues as an example. David Hogg, a student from Parkland, thinks that the problem is the guns, but it is actually the mental stability of the person who is using it. Nicholas Cruz, the student who shot those 17 children, could have found any other weapon to kill students. It was his mentality which made him do such an act. He was clearly in the mode of ignorance. No amount of gun laws alone can solve this problem. The idea is simple. To create peace in the world and elevate human consciousness, everyone must be converted to the mode of goodness and follow the four universal principles: mercy, truthfulness, austerity, and cleanliness. How would there be peace when people don't follow the four universal principles? People can follow these principles without breaking any religious principles that they believe in. Can you still be a Christian if you don't eat meat? Yes, you can. The same applies to all four universal principles. Only when the whole nation is converted to the mode of goodness, then the whole nation is peaceful. To ensure people follow
Now,
these...
you don't want to use the word converted. Rises up.
Okay.
Convert has too much of a religious connotation.
Only when the whole nation is raised to the mode of goodness, then the whole nation is peaceful. To ensure people follow these...
You can also use the word enlightened by, or raised.
Yeah. To ensure people follow these, we must understand what causes people to break these principles and instill regulated life principles that will ensure they don't break these universal principles. Yeah. To attain mercy, one must give up meat eating and the killing of animals, including fish and eggs. Killing animals and eating them reverts you to the modes of passion and ignorance, as your body returns into the graveyard of many poor animals. To be merciful to other humans, first you must be merciful to the animals on your plate. If you eat meat, you are supporting the killing of animals. That is why it is important to give up meat eating. 2. To become truthful, it is important to give up gambling. Gambling turns one into a deceiving liar. Gambling is the open door towards greed, which can easily lead to the mode of ignorance. One will go to ends to get what they want, and it all starts from gambling. Giving up gambling converts one from a liar to an honest person. 3. To acquire cleanliness, it is very important to give up illicit sex and extramarital affairs.
Marital. Not martial. Martial means fighting.
Extramarital affairs. Illicit sex leads to both uncleanliness in the mind and body, leaving both very distracted and at unease. Sex leads to more focus on the body than the soul, leaving people with a shallow understanding. To attain cleanliness, it is very important to give up all illicit activities. 4. Finally, to become austere, it is very important to stop consuming and using intoxicants like alcohol, tobacco, drugs, also any foods or drinks that include caffeine, even chocolate. Intoxicants will convert a sane mind to an insane one. It is important to give up all intoxicants so that one is sane and is able to comprehend and do without any unwanted influence that stops one from using common sense. So, to show austerity, one must stop consuming intoxicants. You have an unique opportunity to be an influence for generations to come if you are able to make these changes in a systematic way for all subjects to follow you and you demonstrating them personally. So to summarize the contents of this overflowing letter, the fate of the nation heavily rests on your hands, and you should make both public and personal decisions with much care and using your consciousness.
Good. Yeah, go ahead.
Sincerely, Shreyas.
Very good. Okay, so here's a good, very good starting point. Made a lot of, covered most all the essential points. We should share this if you can. Send it, give it to Nandaram, and he'll send it out to everybody. And now we'll work on this. Come up with some suggestions or any thing you think that's maybe forgotten or something that should be emphasized more, etc. Right? Or at least study what she's written. What she's written is very, very good. I have a few suggestions. I'm going to think about it also. And then next week we want to get a final draft, or very close to a final draft, and then get this off to Donald Trump. Yeah, Donald Trump. Yeah, we're doing it. Come on. Get on board. The train is leaving the station, and if you don't get on board, you'll be left behind. Then you'll say later on, oh my God, I should have joined that group. Stress is going to Washington, D.C. to meet Trump, and I didn't do anything. I'm left behind in Seattle. Right? So let's take this seriously. This is a great project. This is real destination imagination. Very good.
And we should also probably send to all the press.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's say even Trump ignores some opposing press will cover that.
Yeah, definitely. We should go. Stressa can go on YouTube. We'll make a YouTube little film or video demonstrating the points of the letter. You see how things happen in life? Very good. Thank you. Haribol.